I'm Trina Sharon. I'm so happy today to be talking to a friend and colleague, Frances McCarthy, about her amazing, incredible book that's just due out on the 7th of July called Till Death Don't Us Part. Till Death Don't Us Part. Now, I do have to say that it really touched me on a personal level. And this book is just so multifaceted. It's absolutely incredible. So, Karen, big welcome to you.
Hi Trina, thanks. Yes, my new book, Till Death Don't Us Part, A True Story of Awakening to Love After Life, is being released on July 7th by White Crow Books, so I'm very excited about that. It actually tells my story of mostly around the first year after I got the news that my fiancé had died in New York. I was actually on assignment in Virginia at the time. I decided to stay in Virginia in this big old house. And while I was there, all sorts of strange things started happening. Like I was seeing things, furniture was moving, there were strange noises and smells, things were touching me. And initially I thought this was my grief and was going to go see a doctor. But it turned out that I actually started meeting interesting people who were telling me there could be an alternative to this, which initially I didn't believe, which is that it was the spirit of my loved one, perhaps. The first part of the book is all about this journey to try to understand what is going on and if these ideas that consciousness can survive death could in fact have any kernel of truth to them at all. So it was a very, very steep curve, very, very steep turn to have to make. But the book sort of takes the reader along on that journey of trying to identify what is going on in some kind of rational way.
This book, I feel this book is for people who are grieving and have grieved, who are perhaps doubtful, does life exist after death? People who are interested in good writing and a good story and a human interest story. So to me, it's a love story first and foremost, and I absolutely, hand to my heart, I cried.
Yeah, I really just wanted to make it a sort of a relatable book. I mean, when I sat down to decide how to write the story, I had a couple of options. One was just to do a straightforward sort of investigative journalistic piece where I'm just presenting my interviews and findings and research. And then the other option was to actually write it as a memoir, which is what I ultimately decided to do. I was hoping then that I could bring the reader along on the same journey. And I'm not in any way trying to say I have all the answers, and I'm certainly not trying to convert anybody. But I thought if I just sort of laid out that story and people came on that, down that little path with me, then they would have quite a lot of information and quite a lot of authentic experience to draw on, to really make up their own mind. If this is something they really can kind of get on board with.
I've read an awful lot of mediumship books and healing books, but this one is different. And I'll be honest, this one is different. I hand my heart feel that this will appeal to everybody, because it appeals to somebody who's in grief. It will appeal to somebody who's interested in, the spiritual realm, spiritual mediumship, healing modalities, and it will appeal to people who just like a good human life story really well. So to me, it was very important that you did it that way, and you're obviously a very well established writer, and it was very easy to read.
Something I hadn't really quite expected when I set out to write a memoir was that the process of actually putting the story down in itself would turn out to be very healing. And so I hope the sort of the healing journey I went on can also inspire other people maybe to do this work, or in some way help them with their own healing as they read through the events.
And what's interesting, you can follow that in the book. You can see the healing, you can follow that flow of the healing in the book. Like, you can feel that raw pain.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. It was painful at the time I was living through it, and there was a whole other pain involved in writing it, but really ultimately in the end it was very, very well worth it.
And so this virtual book launch, and you're going to be joined by Colin Bates and David Scheisser, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And what kind of topics are you going to be talking about on the 26th?
Yeah, Trina, on the 26th of July, myself and Minister Colin Bates and David Scheisser will be getting together to talk about different aspects of the spirit world. So I'll be talking about some of the subjects in my book, probably focusing on ongoing relationships, how to maintain those relationships, how to speak the language of those relationships. We'll probably also talk about grief. I'm sure we'll be talking about mediumship. Minister Colin Bates is the most phenomenal tutor at the Arthur Findlay College, and he's just wise beyond words, honestly. And if you read the book, you see he's featured in there and had some really, really profound comments to make. And I'm sure he will share much of his wisdom in this talk. And David Scheitzer is the most beautiful healing medium, and because of the power of the spirit world to heal, which you can sort of see that theme and that thread arcing through the book, and it's just something that is near and dear to my heart, that I asked David if he would come along and say a few words on that as well. So the three of us will give a talk on different aspects, and then I will read some excerpts from the book, and then we'll leave time for a Q&A, so people can ask questions to myself or David or Colin. And hopefully that will amount to a very, very fun and interesting evening. I really do think it will be. Certainly these two are just great guests to have. It is a free event, so all are welcome, but you will need to register in advance because it is will have limited space available. And you can just go ahead and pre-register to secure your place on the Eventbrite link in this Facebook event listing, or go to my website, KarenFrancesMedium.com. There's events page there, and that actually has all of the upcoming events as they're booking.
I know, I'm really excited to be tuning in on the 26th of July with David, Colin and yourself, who will be talking even more about all of these topics that are so, that you discuss in your book, that will be going even deeper into all of them.